it was like, no, there was no penis waved around in front of children in a spa to, okay, there was someone waving around a penis in a spa, but it's a female penis, so you're a bigot if you have a problem with that. So it's just shifting goalposts, or like you said, I don't know, the shifting Overton window. Um, is you can just Women don't win in this fight when we're just completely detached from reality.
That this video is sponsored by Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN that allows you to see content which may otherwise be censored. You can get Surfshark on unlimited devices, 24/7 report, Netflix libraries from 30 different libraries, ad blockers, and so much more. But most importantly, you are supporting freedom. So I highly recommend you sign up to Surfshark below, 81% off if you sign up today. Go do it and keep your internet free. It's official. Cancel culture has hit a new low. On this episode of Cancel This, I'm going to be speaking to Amy Eileen-Hamm, who's not only a political commentator, not only a feminist, but also a nurse who is now under investigation by the College of Nurses in British Columbia. Her crime? Stating that biological men are biological men. You're not going to want to miss this episode. It's incredible, it's daunting, and it's really, really quite frightening. So I hope you enjoy it. Please listen and let me know your thoughts. I'm Angelo, Isidorou, and this is Cancel This. All right, Amy, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So your story is not a fun story, but we typically don't have fun stories on the show. The show is called Cancel This. It's about cancel culture, and your story is sort of the epitome of the toxicity of cancel culture. But before we get into why the College of Nurses are investigating you, it would probably be a good idea to start from the beginning and really figure out what's really going on here. You sort of made a name for yourself on the interwebs for putting up a giant billboard, or playing a part in putting up a giant billboard that says "I heart J.K. Rowling," and that sort of played a role in this subsequent investigation. Could you talk to me a little bit about that and your background as a feminist?
Sure. So yeah, like it's interesting. I've been mobbed multiple times online prior to the billboard, but the billboard was the one that got the most media attention. Even the CBC covered it, which, as we both know, is quite rare. The CBC usually ignores this issue of like gender critical feminism. They don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. So this was kind of the first time that I had been mobbed online, and people started saying, like, this is where this person works. She's a nurse. Complain to her employer. And basically the billboard itself was in support of J.K. Rowling, who is also gender critical. She's a woman who stands up for the rights of women and children, women's sex-based rights. And I'm a fan of hers, and I'm a fan of the cause. Yeah, so that after that happened, there was in one day, I got more than 15,000 comments on Facebook, and the vast majority were abusive, derogatory comments. So I kind of figured after that happened, and the fact that people were saying, like, this is Amy's a nurse, this is where she works, in the back of my mind, I thought, well, I think this is not going to be great. And then lo and behold, people complained to the BC College of Nurses and Midwives, which is the regulatory body that gives me my license to practice nursing. And so some complaints went into them saying that I am transphobic and that I would be a danger to patients who are either trans or gender diverse, whatever that means.
Okay, interesting. So just to take a step back for the uninitiated that might be listening, because a lot of people have this perception of J.K. Rowling as being hard left, part of the woke sort of milieu. But I guess as of a few
Yeah.
years now, that has shifted, and the Overton window has shifted to such a degree that J.K. Rowling is effectively canceled for being a feminist, for being a quote unquote TERF. Could you explain, like, briefly what this division is among TERFs and what you would call, I guess, pro-trans feminism, if that even exists?
Sure. I mean, I think it boils down to this division between second and third wave feminists, and the fact that third wave feminism embraces this slogan, trans women are women. So they accept this idea that if you declare that you are trans, you are literally a biological female. And because you've made that declaration on that basis, you should then be entitled to all of the same rights and privileges that biological women are given in our society, such as going into women's prisons or women's rape shelters or women's sports. And the gender critical feminists would say, hang on, biological sex is a thing that is real and exists, and it's not appropriate for people who are biological males to be able to just declare that they are women and be treated as such in the law, and allowed to enter into these spaces that have been created for biological women on the basis of historically our oppression as women has been because of our biological sex.
And that makes sense in the context of, I mean, multiple news items now that have exposed situations. I think the most recent one was in LA, where a biological man went into a spa that was a women's spa and was naked in front of children. So this is certainly an issue that
Yeah.
exists. I know, like, the other side likes to say, well, that never happens, but clearly it happens, right?
It went from, I mean, some people are still in the that never happened mode, but at the same time, like early on, because this has been on my mind for years now. So early on, people would say, that never happened. And then it shifted to, well, you know what? That did happen, but what is your problem with it? Because this is acceptable and you're a bigot. So this is, it was like, no, there was no penis waved around in front of children in a spa, to, okay, there was someone waving around a penis in a spa, but it's a female penis, so you're a bigot if you have a problem with that. So it's just shifting goalposts, or like you said, I don't know, the shifting Overton window. Is you can just women don't win in this fight when we're just completely detached from reality.
Yeah, well, especially considering the fact that women have fought for decades to achieve a certain status, and now that status can be easily hijacked just by saying I'm a woman now, right? I mean, I think it's certainly a fight worth fighting. I guess my next question would be, there's a lot of people who, and I know you're going to love this, people who agree with you that will message you and say,
Right.
you are so awesome. I agree with you. I would say what you're saying publicly, but I have a family and a business and I need to pay rent. So, I can't afford to ruin my life like you did. It's not something they can do, but they support you,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't have a family or rent or payments or anything like that. You're just homeless, basically, is the assumption that they have.
Of course.
But I mean,
Yeah.
to that end, clearly people know this is absurd. People know it's absurd. Why is it that you felt the need, just as a person, to die on this hill? What do you think it was in your life that made you feel as though I'm dying on this hill? I'm going to be vocal about this. I'm going to risk things. I just have to do something here instead of just being quiet and going about life.
I don't know exactly what it is, aside from, like, I know as a personality trait that I have is I'm stubborn. And even though I'm like kind of a quiet and introverted person, I just can't, if, as I started to see more and more, um, I'm kind of like a nerd who spends a lot of time on the internet. So I would notice things on like Tumblr and Reddit about all of this kind of wacky gender identity ideology stuff where we're supposed to be denying reality, denying science, and like embracing all this postmodernism garbage. And I just can't do it. I really can't. And I don't know. It's hard to embrace a lie. There's just something in me that is like, I can't go along with this, and I'm not going to pretend that something that is a lie is the truth. And it is frustrating to hear people say like, well, I have a mortgage and a family that I support, and I feel the same way. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I'm a single mother, and I pay a mortgage by myself, and my job is critical to my well-being and taking care of my family. It's an enormous deal to me to have my employment threatened, and everything has been up in the air for almost a year now. So I can understand why people are afraid of speaking out, absolutely, because it's not fun. And I don't think anyone deserves to have their livelihood threatened because of their political ideas, no matter how unpopular they are. But yeah, I don't know. I just can't, I just can't go along with lies and things that aren't true. It's just not in my character, I guess, to do it.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting answer. It's something I ask people in our ragtag group of people who don't think the consequences out, I guess, of their words, where, there seems to
Yeah.
be a group of people who, are made examples of because so few people on either side are willing to speak out. I mean, you get enough of those messages from people where you begin to realize, like, oh shit, it seems like everyone agrees with you. But if they all just spoke up
Yeah.
simultaneously, there would be essentially no effect on the individual because it's everyone, right? So it's sort of like you're
Yeah.
now in the game, and
Yeah.
now it's a race to see, can we punish Amy for daring to step out of line, right? And to
Yeah.
that end, I mean, we can jump to what's going on now. The billboard goes up, it makes a big splash, and I recall even a city councilor in Vancouver that likes to label herself a feminist even attacked it, and it was just a barrage
Yeah.
of just idiots that were attacking it. And
Yeah. 'Cause you covered that story on the day that it went up.
yeah, it was just such a bizarre sight. And I mean, let me just say the billboard itself is kind of the perfect troll in a sense because it's completely innocuous. You're saying nothing bad in it. You're saying that you like probably the most popular female author in history. So, it's
Yeah.
quite incredible in that sense. But I guess to our next point, they went after you. They went after you where it hurts, and I guess they went after they went to the College of Nurses. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's the BC College of Nurses and Midwives. So it covers like registered nurses, registered psychiatric nurses, all the nurses and midwives in our province. It's more than 50,000 people, mostly women. It's a majority female profession, which also makes this even more disturbing. Is that they would, I feel, bully, harass, and target a woman who stands up for women's rights, when and it's like, this is the work that you should be doing. You shouldn't be targeting people who understand the importance of biological sex and want women to retain their sex-based rights as enshrined in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Right, right. And I guess their sort of narrative is that by allowing you to continue to be a nurse, your future patients that may be trans are not going to be safe because you're just a psycho evil woman, I guess, is what they're going for, which is completely absurd. But is that sort of what they're trying to
Yeah.
imply?
Yeah, that's kind of what the gist of the complainants' arguments were, which I would note these are, I've never had a patient complaint. I've never had any issue with my work performance. My employer has told me like that my work has been exemplary. This is 100% complaints from activists in the public realm who are unhappy with what I have done outside of work, not during my working hours. It has nothing to do with me performing my duties as a nurse. And I've worked with countless like trans and gender diverse people over I've been doing this for a decade, and there's never been an issue, nor would there ever be an issue, because I'm not a transphobic person, and that's just ludicrous.
And I think it's worth pointing out just how absurd this is, because I think we get desensitized to it. But just so people understand, you're a single mother, a feminist, a nurse, which is a role that is very important in society right now. And the side that's supposed to be pro, single parent homes, pro healthcare, pro tolerance is trying to destroy your life. Like, the irony of your martyrdom is really kind of insane and absurd. And I almost want people to see it as that and not get desensitized to how insane this is. I mean, just on a really personal level, like, what has this been like for you?
It not great. Like, I'm looking at myself on the little screen. I'm like, oh, I look tired. I have been tired. I'm not sleeping well. I think my mental health has suffered a lot. It's incredibly, incredibly stressful. And I recently, like, the stage that I'm at in this process is that, so the college investigated me for, I think, about 6 months, maybe a bit more. They submitted to my lawyers at the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms a report that was more than 330 pages of the supposed evidence about why I'm transphobic. And
Wow.
and then we were allowed to respond. So we did. And then they came back with what's called a consent agreement. And it's basically their proposed punishment for me, which I'm not, I can't say what that punishment is right now, but in my opinion, of course, I haven't done anything wrong, so there shouldn't be any punishment. But regardless, there's kind of like a laundry list of punishments that I'm supposed to either say yes or no to. If I say no, I go to a disciplinary hearing, and then this issue will likely end up in the court system, which could take years. So, I, yeah, it's like the personal toll is big, because I'm like, I have these are the golden years of being with my young children. I have like a toddler and a preschooler, and I just want to be happy and enjoy that, and like work and take care of them, enjoy my life. I don't want to have to think about this stuff. And then at the same time, it's like I could accept their punishment and kind of back down and try to move on. But why why should I be punished when I've done nothing wrong? And I don't think I can do that. So on a personal level, I'm like, I need to figure out how to deal with cancel culture and not let it break me down. And I know, like, we've even talked about this because you've been subject to this as well. And I happen to have a lot of friends in my life who have been subject to cancel culture. And it's like, I just want to be able to go through this and keep fighting and be able to keep my sanity in the meantime. So that's my focus right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a very basic focus, right? I mean, like this feeling is very unnatural. It's not natural to have people looking for where you work and what you do, and having people essentially devote their life to undermining yours, right? And you have to reconcile your principles, which obviously you have principles, with the pragmatism of raising two kids. Like, how do you do that? I can't imagine being in that position where, I imagine you're thinking maybe I'd take the disciplinary sort of whatever they want to punish you with, but then are you able to sleep at night just because of how stupid it is and you haven't done anything
Yeah.
wrong? Like it's a really tough position to be in, but I'm glad that you have the Justice Center. I mean, full disclosure for those listening, the Justice Center also represents me. They represent people pro bono. So make sure to support them because they're doing really great work in Canada. But it sounds like, I mean, to me, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you're going to fight this and you're just going to keep plowing ahead. And I think based on what you've said, you have friends that have gone through this. Getting canceled is this weird process where the worst thing you can do is give into it and apologize. It's almost like you need to make it through. It's kind of like a fucked up form of puberty. So you need to just keep going
Yeah.
and hopefully come out of the other end.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like you're going to continue fighting it.
Yeah, that's what I feel. And I'm like, this has been torturing me where I felt like this is impacting me on a personal level and I don't want it to. Um, but at the same time, how could I live with myself if I back down after everything that I've done? I can't. And the fact that, there might be, well, I know a lot of nurses and healthcare workers who agree with me. They share the same beliefs as me and they're terrified to speak out. So I'm like, if I were to back down now, where does that leave everyone else who also wants to be able to stand up for what they believe in? Um,
Yeah.
I feel like it's important to keep going. You don't like reach the 11th hour and then just bail. So
Yeah. Yeah. Toothpaste is out of the
yeah.
tube on
And
this, I think.
like,
But like, yeah.
yeah.
No, go ahead.
It's hard. It's hard when it's like, my kids are obviously the most important thing in my life. They're the center of my life, and this is a really frustrating distraction. And I guess that it's like I'm kind of coming to terms with the fact that this might be a distraction for a while. So I need to figure out how I can continue doing this while not letting it affect me on a personal level so that I can just live my life and keep it completely separate.
Yeah. Well, I have to ask, I mean, just stepping back for a second, you mentioned there's like a 300-page report that they gave to the Justice Center about you. Like, I mean, and again, if you can't talk about it, it's totally fine. But if you'll indulge me, like, what
Yeah.
did you do? Like how could it be 300 pages? That's like impressive. That's someone wrote a book about you.
Yeah, I mean, bear in mind that their investigators were stalking my social media for months and months. So a lot of it, it's like articles that I've written for the Post Millennial and Colette and Feminist Current, and it's my social media posts, and it's even comments that people left on articles that I've written, as if I would have any kind of control over what other people say in response to what I've written. And some of it is like stuff that I retweeted from other Twitter accounts. Again, as if, like you're so how is I didn't even say that. I just retweeted something, and some of it is uh, like Amy said that trans women are biological males. So I
How dare
stand
you?
I stand by that, because that is literally a fact. And if you want to, I don't know, it's like if you want to try to hang me on the fact that I said trans women are biological males, when you're the professional association or the professional regulatory body for a science-based profession, I'm just shocked and blown away, quite honestly.
It's some kind of weird version of the Salem witch trials where it's like a science version of it. Because you're right, it is a scientific body, a medical body that is persecuting you for stating one of the most basic biological realities. So if they're successful
Yeah.
in what they're doing, that is setting a precedent that is anti-science, right? I mean, it's just it's completely anti-science. So I mean, geez, like
Yeah.
that's why your story is one I'm so interested in, because it has all these facets to it that are not just philosophical. Like you're someone in the medical community that is being attacked for telling a basic truth. So how much of this is just
Hmm.
postmodernism that is seeped through into the college system?
Yeah, when I went to nursing school, it wasn't that huge, but I I did have to take one course on intersectionality. And at that point in my life, like this was back in 2010, I wasn't familiar with the concept. This was new to me, and I remember this class. I think it was only maybe like a 1 credit course, so it was kind of like some of us would refer to like fluff courses in the program, where it was like the soft and social sciences, which obviously have taken over more now than they had in 2010. But even this one course that I took, I just remember thinking like this course is completely bogus and bizarre, and just very, it was all about cultural relativism. um, and just honestly, at one point, this professor that was teaching the course started dancing during her lecture while trying to explain some kind of concept of intersectionality, and she's like talking about the universe, and I just thought this is completely whacked out. I just shudder to think of how much of the curriculum this makes in, in nursing schools these days. And even I think a couple months ago now, I wrote an article at the Post Millennial about the UBC, because I went to UBC, but the UBC medical school having like there was a student that sent me a screenshot of their exam question, which was about it was like STI testing, and there was this multiple choice answer, and the answers were all kind of like, don't assume that because this person's a woman that they have a vagina, yada yada. And it's just like, how, so this is in medical school now, which you would think like nursing is not as rigorous in terms of the science as medicine, but now knowing that this is happening in medical schools is also very terrifying. And I don't know how people can trust healthcare going forward, knowing that this kind of ideological takeover of universities has now infected science programs.
Yeah, well, I have to say, as a psych major, it's very fascinating to see this finally seep over, because for the longest time, all my medical school friends would say, oh, well, you're in psych, so no shit, it's, all gobbledygook and totally infected with dumb ideas. But medical school still uses science. So there's a
Yeah.
weird level of Schadenfreude that exists, but it's also still a very messed up situation. So I had to
Yeah.
insert that there. But tell me about You mentioned a little bit what the process is. So they sent you this consent thing. You're talking it over with the lawyers at the JCCF. When do you have to make a decision by?
I think I have 11 days
Wow.
now to make my decision. Yeah. So I've been mulling it over. At one point I was like, maybe I could, even though this is not the normal process, but maybe I could try to argue for a lesser punishment, or like a kind of an adapted or edited punishment. And I don't know, I still have 11 days. I'm still not entirely sure what I will do, but I just keep going back to this thought that I haven't done anything wrong. So why am I like considering what is an acceptable punishment when I've done nothing wrong? It's
Yeah.
pretty messed
Yeah.
up.
Well, I think you're dead on. And I think, for what it's worth, I think I may have told you this before, but I feel like for you as a mother of two boys, those boys are going to grow up and they're going to know the story of who you are and what you've done. And it's always endearing to me when I hear different stories about different family members who have achieved certain things that are of value and principle despite being unpopular at the time. And I think your sons will know that their mom is a badass. So, I think you got a lot to mull over, obviously, but you have support.
Yeah.
You definitely have my support, and we'll make sure to promote, whatever we need to promote. Like, I mean, I'll give you a plug. Like, should we be promoting the Justice Center? What should we be linking to?
Yeah, the Justice Center is absolutely incredible, as you know. It's like it feels like they're at this point in my life, it feels like they're a personal savior, but it's not about me. It's about the fact that they're standing up for every single Canadian, and they are an independent group that doesn't get government funding. It's all by donation. And honestly, like, what other group of brilliant people in Canada is fighting so hard to maintain our rights and our freedoms? It's all, they're so critical. So if you are looking for somewhere to donate money, definitely the Justice Center. They take on so many important causes, and they've helped so many people, and every person they help, it's like they're helping individuals, but they're helping every single person in this country by trying to like maintain a foothold on sanity.
Okay. And outside of the 300-page dossier on you, where could people find your tweets and your content and your social media?
Yeah, I'm a Twitter addict. I'm at Rita_6 on Twitter. That's my main social media addiction. So that's where you can
All
find
right.
me.
So if people want to go help Amy fuel that addiction, you can find that link below. And with that said, again, like, I wish you nothing but the best. Like, my heart is with you, and I'm sure people listening are going to feel the same. That's why I wanted to talk to you today. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. It was awesome. It's been a long time since we've even seen each other in real life because of this pandemic. So
Yeah.
hopefully we'll run into
Hopefully
each other
coming to an
someday
end.
soon.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Protect your internet freedom and your privacy with a VPN. Click the link down below for 80% off Surfshark. If you like that video and want to see more, please make sure to subscribe to the Post Millennial. For daily news and content, please go to thepostmillennial.com and consider becoming a member. For $5 a month, you can get rid of all the advertisements on the site. If you like what I'm wearing on my head, you can go to shop.postmillennial.com where we have beanies, mugs, and t-shirts. Please consider supporting the Post Millennial however you can. It's massively appreciated. Thank you.